a wonderful thing to take a look at, because what it does is it focuses on each country and the diets of the people of each country, and the differences that they see in disease of their people from each country, right?
Yeah.
And so you look at that and you say, well, okay, we consume more dairy and calcium than virtually anybody in the world, but we have high cases of osteoporosis. Why is that, right? And what we discover is that the more animal proteins we consume, the more acidic our blood becomes, and the more our bones try to neutralize that acid, right? Now, I'm not a doctor, but that explains why we might see osteoporosis, because here in America, on average, we consume about 20% of our diet is animal protein. And we don't eat nearly as much live fruits and veggies. So if you scale that back, I think Forks Over Knives had said 5% should be animal protein, no more than 5%, but there are doctors that say no more than 10. Either way, we could cut 10% out. And either way, we're not eating enough live fruits and veggies. And I think in part because we feel like, oh, gee, it's expensive. And organic food can be expensive. But if you look at the long term instead of the immediate, right? Now, if you say, look, sure, this tower garden can help me eat in the immediate in 3 to 6 weeks, right? But these trees, they may take 3 to 7 years to really give me any fruit in earnest. But if we focus more on the long term, we've been a very now society, and it's not served us well. We're paying the piper today.
Yeah, we are.
We are. And so we need to focus on what made us great. And, our founders, by and large, were farmers. And by and large, were well studied biblically.
Is there a place still for thinking about your own individual country's well-being if you're all interconnected?
That's a great question. It's a great question. Because your takeaway from talking to me, looking at the flag and looking at the Declaration of Independence, can be, this guy thinks America is the greatest, and we need to be isolationist. And it's true, we have become a global economy. But the reason it's not working today is because of a variety of reasons. There are biblical truths that our country was founded upon, that make us great, that we've lost touch with. I mean, I guess, and then there's areas that are where Russia's more biblical in some areas than America is, and China's more biblical with a work ethic than maybe America is, right? So we've got like these 3 main players in the world, and all of them have certain biblical truths to them, but nobody's 100% that way. Now, globalization has given benefits from a standpoint of, you get economies of scale. You can produce a good with research and development and then spread that cost of research and development over arguably billions of people, right? So there's an advantage from that standpoint. But if you look at our country today, even today, is only 5% of the world's population, right? 5%. Yet we're expected to consume goods for production from the other 95% of the world and consume goods for ourselves. How do you do that without going into debt, especially with automation and everything else that we create? That when you blend 95% of the world's population that doesn't have the same track record of freedom and independence, the same track record of creating invention and innovation for the welfare of man that America does, you intermix that with the 5%, you change the 5% unless the 5% is anchored to something that made them great to begin with, right? So the question is do we become as unproductive and uninventive and uninnovative and replicate things like Stalin or Hitler or aspects of Sharia law in other parts of the world? Or do we try to make the world more like what America made great and create a great world out of that? That's really the question. Is America leading from behind or leading from the front? And I would argue that when we live to the truths of our foundings, the principles of our foundings, that we are the lead. Even today, our military is the might of the world. We are the safeguard to people that love freedom in the world. We're the keystone, for all practical purposes, of that arch. If you take out America as a keystone, freedom collapses worldwide and creates a power vacuum for those that want to control them, right? So we have with great power comes great responsibility. We have a social responsibility not to change what made us great, but rather to spread what made us great to others. And in order to do that, we need to rediscover what made us great in the first place, because we've lost that. So, yes, America is an exceptional country. And it's an exceptional country because of the principles we were founded upon. We had a blending of those that wanted to make a new life for themselves and those that wanted to worship freely without the government interfering. Today we have the government interfering in churches. That's not supposed to be the case. The churches were supposed to hold the government to account. The free press was supposed to hold the government to account. Neither one of those are holding them to account anymore.